Hey guys, Daniel here, Blues Abroad. Bit of a preview this week for the Doggies against us here at Marvel. Should be a good game. So we're on the back of an excellent victory last week against Brisbane where we really controlled the game. Horrific first quarter, but the boys showed some wonderful heart. Some key performances, Cripps carrying the team on his back and really showing a side that probably as Carlton fans we really haven't seen. I know that a big discussion I have with a lot of guys is where does Cripps come into the top five players in the league? And I think it's a fair counter argument from some that he doesn't have the game breaking ability. We don't see it so much. We don't see him break through packs and kick two or three, a la like a danger. We don't see outrageous goals like a Dusty. And I've been saying it for about 2 years. He's got that in him. He just doesn't play that role for Carlton. So it was phenomenal to see it. It was really great to see him, grab the ball and really lead us over the line. I think we saw this week particularly as well. He said, "Come on, boys, come with me," and people actually decided to come with him. I thought Lockie was phenomenal. I called it last week. I said that he'd suit this style of play. It was really good to see that ball go in. And Lockie really did show his variety of passes, which he has executed for the Northern with a little bit more time. I think moving forward, though, we've got to forget about last week. And I think it's really important that we back up with another victory. We haven't gone 2 wins into a bye for over a decade. So it's really important that we can come into the bye, after the bye, and be really up and about and really ready for really a tough back end of the year. There's a lot of the teams in the 8. We play about 4 or 5 sides that are in around that 8. So I think really the motivation for Carlton is we can be that team to ruin the season for people. And I think a win here, doing the double against the Doggies, really will give us like impetus and confidence going forward. Before we go into the teams, I really do expect though a bit more of the same. A lot more ball coming through that corridor as we discussed in the review show. I expect to see that again. We smashed the Doggies in the contest, so I really expect to see more of the same. Tim English, I'll go into it a bit later, but he's got a real weakness with that roughing, being roughed up, and that's what Cruiser is. He's a very rough, in-your-face ruckman. I think he'll roam him up and down the ground. Again, that's English's engine issues, being a young boy. So I really do expect to see Carlton to get lots of good ball, really hitting the outside hard. Murph comes back, excellent user by foot. So let's, without much more of ado, let's get into them teams. So here we are, evening game. We're finally on a Saturday again, evening fixture, so we can all sit down and really enjoy a good Saturday night, not being pushed down to the back end on a Sunday. And let's get straight into it. So as we can see, I've taken a bit of creative license with Levi Casbolt. I can't see Sam Petrosky-Seaton being in the back pocket, and I can't see Levi being in the forward pocket. So there we go. We've got Lockie Plowman, Casbolt and Marchbank, a really solid back 3. These 3 really had a good game last week. And they're up against Bont does start in the forward line, so I've kind of just taken Beveridge's press release at face value with Aaron Norton, who has been really good this year, and Tory Dixon. So let's just delve into it. We've got Plowman there, 11 games. Again, his AFL rating, this is why I don't like it, 262. With the TPI, he's got a bit of a bump up with these matchups, 4.4. Up against the Bont. Now, I expect to see Bont rotate through that forward line and in the midfield. 10.64 his TPI rating. This is going to be a tough matchup when this does occur on the field. Plowman's big though, big, strong. I expect to see this matchup be really key, him and Cripps. I think that will be the greatest battle that we're going to watch this weekend. You would say, looking at that forward lineup matchup there, I'd say that Bont may get the better of Plowman. I hope I'm wrong when he does roam into that forward line. I expect to see Sam Lloyd in this position more. which will be very similar to what Plowman had last week against Charlie Cameron. Really expect Plowman to do much of the same. Bit of body work. Some of that body work last week against Cameron was exceptional. Really remembering he is a big unit. Over onto Casbolt Norton. Much of the same for Casbolt. Norton ain't the most mobile. Been really good. I can't emphasise this enough. Levi Casbolt's second in the comp, games played key position for intercept marks. I expect to see more of the same, to play a real lockdown role on Aaron Norton. I don't think Norton has a prayer. I think he'll go goalless. That's a POM prediction. 4.4 for Norton. He's been really good this year, though, to be fair to him. He's really been redesigned from a key position defender, kind of the polar opposite of Casbolt. I really do expect them to have big difficulty against Casbolt, and Manny's going to lock him down. Again, 6.42, he's really cranking up them values now, Levi. So I reckon that'll be a good matchup. I would say advantage Casbolt though. And then Marchbank against Tory Dixon. Dixon's been really good, real tricky pocket forward. Likes to go through the midfield as well. 3.9 with the AFL rating of 4.25. Like you see, the AFL does not rate these players, I don't think, fairly. But very even AFL rating matchup through the histories, these two. I expect Marchbank to have his work cut out, but I don't think that's as bad as it was last week with Brisbane. So, I mean, I really do expect to see Marchbank again to play that real lockdown role and take the game on him and Plowman from that back pocket. Over to the halfbacks, we've got Cade, Jacob and Daisy. Same old, that halfback line. Cade versus Suckling. I think this will be a really good matchup. Suckling's not been in the greatest of form, and he looks like he's been a yard slower. The stats show the same. I really do expect to see Cade Simpson really stick to this guy like glue. Really look to be that link for us in the transition. Gardner's a first-year player up against Jacob Wheater, and I really do expect Wheaters to carry on. I think his intercept marking last week was fantastic, and having Casbolt there just as that lockdown role has really allowed him to go in and search for that ball. And it was the first time, I think, under in this season, and maybe for a long time, we've seen a centre half back and give Wheater in license to attack the ball, not the man. I think that should be a really good matchup. I really do think Jacob will come out on top of that. And then we've got Daisy versus Lloyd. Daisy's going to have to use every ounce of his intelligence to beat this man. This guy is a phenomenal footballer. Snags goals at will. And I think it's going to be a tough matchup. So that's my worry, Sam Lloyd. If Daisy can just stifle that ball, particularly with Wheater in, if he doesn't take marks and crumbs it, Lloyd is a dangerous crummer. But I would really fancy old Daisy to wow the crowd at the Marvel. Now onto the midfield. We've got Setterfield, Cripps and Walsh. It's a very tasty middle three up against a more experienced Lockie Hunter, Tom Liberatore and Lipinski. Now, last time they matched up, Walsh and Hunter spent a lot of time together, and Walsh really did well. He's probably the danger man there. I would expect to see, depending on how the game goes, you'll see Ed Kerner either go to Hunter or McRae. But I think this is how I actually do think they'll start to match up in this way. I think Liberatore, Bontempelli may switch throughout the game as well. He likes to come in there as a pressure forward. Real good rotation they have of the mids and the forwards, the doggies do. But let's look at them. Setterfield versus Hunter. I think Setterfield's going to have to keep doing what he was doing. His disposal efficiency last week really let him down. Solid game though, and he's really there to help Cripps, and he did that well last week. Cripper, what can we say? There's only so many superlatives you can say about Cripps, apart from he's just awesome at the moment. I think the battle between him with Walsh against Liberatore, McRae and Bontempelli is really tasty. And it's something that I think a partial observer is really going to get out of it. And Walsh up against Lipinski. I think Walsh will destroy Lipinski, and I think Hunter's starting to show his age. Still has his moments. 9.87 this season, his TPI rating. Probably the danger man in the midfield on the outside. I expect Walsh or Ed to roam with him. I think Walsh, though, my prediction is he'll just get a job of do the same as him. And I think it's a very even matchup if you look at that midfield. I think last time out, we destroyed them in centre clearances and midfield possessions. Over the season, it's 39 to Cowton to 37 in centre clearances. And it's about the same in contested possession. So that key matchup with Bontempelli and Liberatore versus Cripper and Satterfield really going to be prevalent. Whoever wins that battle wins the game, in my opinion. But I think in the midfield there, just if you look at that at face value, advantage Cowton. Over to the half-forward line now, when we've got Cunners, Curnow and Ed versus Caleb Daniel, Cordy and Easton Wood in their half-back line. I really expect Cunners to do more of the same. He really impressed me last week. He's got a bit of legs on him as well, so that matchup with Caleb Daniel won't scare him too much. One thing though, if you can stop Caleb Daniel moving it quickly off the half-back line, we know he's a runner. I think that's something that Cunners did really well last week. Just really stuck to his man like glue and stifled him. Great matchup. Caleb Daniel, the numbers favour him, but I think the heart and tenacity of Cunners may see him through. Caleb Daniel, though, what can we say about him? Phenomenal footballer, quick, nimble, loves the 1-2 off that half-back line. A real attacking threat from the half-back line. Transitional genius at Caleb Daniel. Cunningham's going to have his work cut out, but it'll be a key battle. Now, this is an interesting one for Cowton. Charlie Curnow returned to form for the biceps against Zane Cordy. Zane Cordy is very loose. This season, they're having a 27% increase in their TPI when matched up against Zane Cordy. 1.96 for a key defender isn't the best. And Easton Wood's got the same issue as well. Real poor year by their standards up against the Curnow brothers. I expect to see what we saw last week with Ed. Half forward to midfield. Hope he gets that tagging role if McRae comes off the shackles. But I'd say Charlie Curnow's going to have a big one. This is Pom's prediction for Charlie. I think he was going to get 4. I think he's going to have a really good game. I think that's their weakness, their half-back line. Over to the forward line now. And Mitch, Harry and SPS up against Johannesson, Trengrove and Bailey Williams. Now, this is where I think SPS will line up in the pocket. Exceptional tackler. I think him and Gibbons will have this role on Johannesson. Johannesson, we know he takes the game on. Phenomenal danger down that left-hand side with him and Caleb Daniel. These two can really turn a game over. I think SPS and Gibbons and Cunningham will be really looking to try and put that forward pressure, that key staple of David Teague's game. If that pressure's good and they stay in the 50, they can't hurt you. If they come out of that 50 and start to play it with their midfielders, Carlton could be in trouble. I think, though, this backline does lack height. And that's where Mitch McGovern, Harry and Charlie will be really looking to take that game on. Trengrove versus Harry, I'm telling you now, there is no matchup in the world that favours Westcote than the Dogs with this. McKay will have a field day. If that ball can come to him with quality ball, like last week where the delivery was pretty good, it's starting to get there. If he lives on that chain 40 metres out from the goal, McKay's going to do some damage. I expect McKay to also get 3. I think SPS will enjoy a bit of forward time here. I think that matchup potentially for me, just as a partial, I think SPS, he has played a bit of time in the pocket. They rest him there with Gibbons. They rotated this last week. Really think Gibbons and SPS will fancy it against Johannesson because they're quick. They're not as quick as him, but I think they're savvy. And I really look forward to that battle just this weekend. Over to the rucks now. Cruiser versus English. It's not good reading if you're a Doggies fan. English has struggled against predominant ruckmen like Cruiser in that bill. And I expect it to happen again. Carlton went with experience, controversial. I'm a big Jack Silvani fan, but I really like this, that we've changed the idea and gone with midfielders as opposed to Jack Silvani, who's kind of slow and arboreous. we've gone with an extra mid. Now, the rotations, I keep saying it with the Dogs, is their strength. They rotate a lot of positions from half back to the half forward line and constantly rotate. So you find these guys have got long legs. And I think Mark Murphy coming in, real good. Experienced user, good by foot. He's up against Dunkley on the matchup screen and Fisher versus McRae. I think that's a really good matchup for Carlton, Murphy versus Dunkley. That experience, and he likes to stifle the first ball out, Murphy does. I think that's going to be good for Carlton. And Zach Fisher versus Jackson McRae. We know how good McRae is, but very controversially, I find McRae, I think he's a TAFE version of Lockie Neal. He hasn't got the pace like Neal has. He doesn't damage you like Neal does. He basically just accumulates possessions. So I really don't fear Jack McRae. And I think if Carlton can stop Lockie Hunter and Cripper and Bont just doing a one-upmanship, I really think this midfield battle and this rover battle is advantage Carlton. As you can see, the TPIs, if you take McRae out of it, Carlton win. And if you take it all up, it's only a 5-point gap. So I really do think Carlton have enjoyed that matchup. I think that's a clever matchup from Teague. And let's look at what options we have on the bench. We've got Gibbons, we've got O'Brien, we've got Dow and Newman. Bailey Smith, who's been revolutionary in their first year. Hayden Crozier, McLean and Dale. Now I think this is advantage Carlton. You can see the TPIs are fairly average, but I really do think you look at what's coming off the bench. You've got Newman there rotating with Thomas and Simpson and co. Dow had a good game last week. That kick in, as we explained last week as well, 77%, he's there or thereabouts. And I really think that this bench here presents a problem for the Doggies, because we've got Bailey Smith, who's been utilised as an outside run, pressure forward this year, and rotating through the midfield. You've got Crozier down the back, McLean and Dale, who were small forwards. I think they're a mid-short, I really do. And Crozier, although good off the half-back line, he isn't going to stop Mitch McGovern, McKay and Kerner. So I really do think for Carlton, we've got it. I mean, the wonderful thing there as well is Lockie O'Brien is nearly getting into positive marks now. He's getting there. One more game like last, we should see him tip that. And Gibbons as well. TPI does expect them to keep performing, and being in a pocket, he's kind of been negated from his excellent midfield work. So I really expect Gibbons and Lockie to have another big game and carry on where they are. Let's see what that translates to in real money with the end of the game and what that means for stats. And as you can see, we know the ladder position, 18th and 5th. Now, points scored, we know that they're a little bit higher. Just slightly above Carlton they are, with 8-8-8 and Carlton with 8-16. So 16th versus 11th. And points against Carlton are third in the league versus 8. So you can see it's not a dramatic, it's 50 points either side really. So you can see that this will totally flip. If Carlton get a run on this, we could be almost even. Carlton obviously one of coming off the back of a win. Doggies had 3. Now interestingly from the bye, they run at about 57% wins. So slightly in favour of the Doggies winning after the bye. But it's not a great, by no means great percentage. So Carlton will really, really fancy that. And they'll know that. And our Marvel win record, where usually the Doggies are quite strong at the Marvel, is the same at 40%. Now these are the interesting numbers. Carlton's first quarter is a lot better than the Dogs. And you can see then it kind of evens out. So I think this is really interesting that if Carlton can get a start where the last couple of games we haven't started well, I think this could be a really thing, because the Dogs do seem to struggle to chase a result. You can see that the average points with Carlton is 2 goals, but the average points against is the same. So I really do feel that Carlton shouldn't be scared of this game. It's a dangerous game for us, but I think with all that's been going on this week, I think we should be positive. Now the TPIs, Carlton slightly have the edge. Now, this is the first time since the Gold Coast game where we actually have an edge outright in TPI. Interesting, when we beat the Doggies last time, it tipped us by 52%. So anything within the 4% mark usually can be a toss of a coin. It's literally coming down to fine margins. Once we get over that, once we get over the 10, we're starting to feel a bit more certainty. Now, after running the simulation over 10,000 times for this, Carlton come out on top, 56-44, with a mean score being 75-61. So I really do feel that that's going to be it. I think that Carlton are going to win by 14. As always, guys, thank you very much for listening. Please, in the comments, any questions or any feedback you want, please drop it there. As always, my inbox is always open. A few of you have messaged, and thank you very much for the love and support. It's fantastic. As always, I've been Dan. I'm the Pom with Pom's Preview. Have a great weekend, and go Blues!